Thanks for tuning in to Discover Stories on Reimagine Radio. Before we get started, here's a word from our sponsor.
Do you wish you had a voice in making some of the world's most popular websites more accessible? Fable is recruiting a community of paid assistive technology users who work from home to test websites and provide feedback on how they can be improved. We're currently recruiting testers who use Dragon, voice control, eye tracking, switch controls, and head mice. No resume, no cover letter, and no experience with user testing is required. Learn more and apply at www.makeitfable.com/community.
Hello. Welcome to another Discover Stories with Reimagine Radio. Today, volunteer host Jasper Chu is interviewing Lauren Burrows Backhouse. Jasper knows Lauren from when he used to participate in the Richmond Youth Media Program, of which Lauren was the founder and program head. I hope you enjoy their conversation. Thank you for tuning in.
Long time no see. It's been quite a few years now since we last spoken to each other or seen each other. I've known you for about a decade, actually, or over a decade, but you were at the Media Lab or Richmond Youth Media Program long before I joined. So I just want to ask, what got you involved in the program?
I'm happy you asked. Well, first of all, it's cool to be part of a podcast called Reimagine Radio because my education is in broadcasting, radio broadcasting. I went to BCIT, which is something I think we share. Some things were happening in my life, like I became a mom, and just some different things kind of got me thinking about maybe making a change. I wanted to sort of help more people. Like maybe my radio show helped some people, but I wanted to try to directly help people. And I was also thinking about how it was so motivating to me when I was hosting my show when young musicians came in and they were talking about whatever challenges they were facing in their careers, and I could like help brainstorm with them solutions or, try to help them advance their careers as musicians. And I thought, like, maybe I could do this for young people. Maybe I could become a youth worker. I knew a youth worker at the time. Shout out to Tamim. He is also a musician, so I knew him sort of through the music scene. I'd seen him perform and stuff, but he'd spoken to me about his youth work in Richmond, and it sounded really amazing, really rewarding, and really cool. And Richmond, BC was doing such interesting things at the time with different types of youth workers. Like Tamim was a music youth worker. When I went and applied to become a youth worker in Richmond, I did not get that job, but the coordinator of youth services said, well, what about being like a DJ youth worker? And I was amazed at that possibility. And, one thing led to another. It wasn't instantaneous, but by 2011, we had launched the Richmond, we had launched in partnership with Richmond Addiction Services and with funding from Vancouver Coastal Health, we'd been able to launch the Richmond Youth Media Program. So that's how it all started, yeah.
Awesome. You, when you were a radio host and you brought people on, they spoke about their challenges when being music producers. What were some of those challenges they were facing that they brought up to you?
Oh, man. I mean, it might be like a young band that's on tour for the first time and they're trying to figure out how to find safe places to sleep or decent ways to feed themselves without spending too much money when they're out on the road. It might be like, maybe it was a musician who'd found a bunch of sudden success and they weren't really sure how to handle it or manage it, and it was very weird to them. A lot of these conversations weren't necessarily in our official interview. The official interview would be like, so you've got a new album out, tell me about the album. But then when we turned the mics off, we were having these really rich and rewarding conversations. And I thought, maybe I'm good at providing guidance to people in some ways.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And one more thing before I move on to the next subject. It's about when you decided you wanted to actually help more people outside your original job at CBC. what made you feel that you should be out there helping more people, or what was your reason for feeling like you should be out there helping people?
I think that becoming a parent was a huge part of it. And looking at my little baby and thinking about how that baby was going to be a child and then a teenager and then an adult. And I don't know. I often talk about myself like I'm a very old person when I'm talking to the teenagers, and I'm sure to the from their perspective, I am pretty ancient. But thinking about the differences from when I was growing up to what it's like now to grow up, and it seemed a lot simpler. I grew up like before the internet. I grew up where. Yeah, I don't know. It just seems a lot more complicated to me now. And so many families are nuclear families. We don't have the support of our extended families very often in urban centers. And it just seemed to be like a really important role to play to help youth. Like in Richmond, they use the 40 developmental assets philosophy, I guess you'd call it, which comes out of the Search Institute. And, it talks about internal assets and external assets, and these developmental assets are what youth need to grow into, happy, healthy, caring adults. And it's kind of, there are 40 of them. So, I can't, I won't do the whole list now. But one of them that always really stood out to me is this idea of 3 or more non-parent adults. So, each young person, the old-fashioned way to say it is it takes a village to raise a child, but science and research shows like at least 5 adults, right? If possible, if each young person can have at least 5 adults that care what happens to them. And it can be a teacher, right? It can be a parent, it can be an auntie, it can be a sport coach, it could be a media program facilitator, but kids can't do it by themselves. Young people need support from adults. So yeah, I don't know if I'm exactly answering your question, but those are some
that
thoughts.
makes sense. That makes sense. But this brings me to another issue about development in youth. When you were growing up throughout the 70s and 80s, what would you say was like the issue then around individuals who are neurodivergent or had disabilities and special needs?
It's a good question. There was a lot less discussion. There's a lot less visibility, and there were a lot less examples of people out there living their lives, living their full, rich, enjoyable lives with different abilities and neurodivergence. And, we didn't have that word, neurodivergence, at that time. There was no general understanding of a spectrum of abilities, right? And that we all fit somewhere in that spectrum. Yeah. I don't know. I when I was growing up, when I was like 10 years old, I wasn't thinking about those things.
Fair enough. So why do you feel do you feel that you were some way drawn to individuals who had disabilities or were neurodivergent or had special needs when you began your work at RIMP or Richmond Youth Media Program?
I don't know. I don't know about being drawn to a particular group. I really love people. I love getting to know people. I love the richness of the human experience. I find it just endlessly fascinating. I love reading fiction. I love, learning more about people. Like the Richmond Youth Media Program was not designed specifically for youth who are living with different disabilities. It was designed to be a low barrier program that anybody who is interested in media arts could come and participate in. And in order to keep it low barrier, we had a wide range. It's still running. This free program is still running in Richmond. Go check it out, richmond.ca/RYMP. But keeping it free, it's 100% free. Having it run frequently, it runs 3 times a week. Having 2 staff members on, which was not always the case. The program grew to accommodate that, so that one person can teach the lesson and one person can be available for any special challenges that a participant is facing. Yeah, did I say 13 to 24? It's like a really large age range, right? And we always ensure to like bake in that idea that, we are all responsible to each other, and that we are all learning together, and that we all have the ability to teach each other as well. And, it just evolved in this way that we were getting survey feedback from our participants, and, more than 40% of the youth coming to this program identified as having a disability. And that was a bit of a surprise, It didn't feel like we were specifically designing the program to, I don't know, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it was really cool. It was really cool to discover that this widely diverse group of young people felt comfortable in the space, felt that what they could learn there was important, and felt that, they wanted to spend their valuable time with us there in the Media Lab.
Why do you think that the program attracted, like, it wasn't designed specifically for individuals who are neurodivergent, have disabilities or special needs, but why do you think Richmond Youth Media Program ended up attracting like over 40% of its individuals identifying with such?
I mean, it's so fascinating. I probably should have asked more individuals at the time, but part of the the other questions on the survey include things like, and it's all on a range if you agree or disagree, but, this is a safe space for me. I learn new things when I come here. I feel better supported when I come to this program. I learn things that enable me to help support others, and so although it is about media arts, which could be anything from a radio show to a short animation to oh my gosh, laser tag graffiti. Like, we did a lot of really cool projects that can really be whatever you are interested in, right? But I wish that I spent more time asking individuals, like what makes it feel like a safe space for you? What makes it feel like a valuable place for you to spend your time? And, maybe I can turn that question around to you, because Jasper, you were a member of the Richmond Youth Media Program for many years, right? Like, do you want to share any thoughts about why it felt like a good place to be?
I don't know. It's just, I felt I could live out my passion there, doing whatever kind of art I felt like doing at the time. I guess you could say it was a place where I felt I could artistically express myself and feel like myself, without, in a rather relaxed environment that went at the participants' own pace, which I think is what drew me and led me to stay in that program for quite a long time, actually.
That really makes me feel happy to hear that.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think you said something about, like, why are you drawn to work with individuals with disabilities? And I wasn't aiming to work with a particular group, but I did find that, quite a few of those individuals were extremely, committed to their interests and really passionate in pursuing them, and extremely creative, coming up with approaches to creative challenges that I never would have come up with, and so interesting to learn to see the world from a different perspective, or many perspectives, so I really, really appreciated that, that aspect of my work.
When you were working with these individuals, what were some experiences that have left like a significant impact on you, or that you still remember to this day quite fondly?
I mean, there are so many. do you kind of mean like how was I changed by this work that I did?
Yeah, we could go with that.
I've always been really enthusiastic and like maybe this is not a word people use very often anymore, but I have been described as being hyper, very hyper. And, like when I was in radio, at one time I worked as a traffic reporter and I was just, speaking faster than ever. And so I've often come on really sort of big and fast and excited. And that is not a way that everybody likes to interact, So I think that I really gained a much deeper understanding of how you can modify your methods of communication to effectively communicate with different types of people. For me, also slowing down, being able to slow down and make a little bit more space for more effective communication has been a big lesson that I learned from the Richmond Youth Media Program. It helps me to be a better communicator, and now I'm in communications. So yeah, thinking about how do you tailor a message to a particular group so that they're going to really be able to hear it, right? Or receive it. That was a big one for me.
And would you say that being able to communicate better has helped you in your personal life with your family? And in what way do you think that's helped you out in other areas of life?
Yeah, good question. Well, I think that, if possible, to get better at being in relationships is a great goal for all of us in our lives, I've only recently kind of come around to thinking about a relationship as more of a verb instead of a noun, like it's something that you're actively doing, that you're continuing to be in relationship with people. And yeah, definitely the lessons I've learned from them being a facilitator with the Richmond Youth Media Program have helped me in my personal life and family, with friends. I dare say that public discourse has gone downhill over the past, say, 4 years. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. That's
so I try to really hold those skills close when I'm feeling like there's an inflammatory situation happening, and I really feel this urge to like blast out all my strong feelings. And nowadays, I just don't think that that's gonna make anything any better. So,
or that it's anywhere near productive.
Yeah. So I'm really, really trying to find ways to have those most difficult conversations. And that ties in with my work in fundraising with nonprofits. It also ties in with just building, maintaining relationships, and yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely getting into the old-fashioned side of things, but we got to treat each other better, Jasper. We just have to. We got to take good care of each other.
Of course,
as we
everyone's worthy of respect. That's for sure. We can all agree.
Yeah.
What was I going to ask? Are there some members of the Richmond Youth Media Program who were neurodivergent, had special needs, or had disabilities that you could recall having a good time working with, or any experiences you shared with them that you particularly enjoyed or had a lasting impact on you?
Yes, like so many. I want to protect everybody's privacy, of course. So I'm not sure what I should share.
You don't have to name names at all.
No, of course. There was one time where something so special happened, and it didn't really have anything to do with the media arts that we were learning together, but the facility where we were, it just so happened that one of our youth media nights, youth media programs were running on Halloween night, right? Like that doesn't happen every year. So one of the years we were having our session on Halloween night, And everything was wrapping up just as it was getting dark, and the city in Richmond was hosting a fireworks display just like 200 feet from our facility, just over in the track and field area there at Minaroo. And so we sort of made it like a little impromptu, not a non-official field trip, but like, okay, the staff are heading over to watch the fireworks. If anyone's allowed to go, maybe we'll see you there, Anyhow, we brought one of the program members who had been living with a physical disability and had had quite a sheltered life until joining this social group. And so there they were at age 17, seeing fireworks for the very first time. And I don't think I'll ever forget the look on their face, It was amazing. There's sorry, there are so many, but I've been also really impressed with the post-secondary ambitions and accomplishments of some of the youth who've been in the program, as I was thinking about this interview, I did a little bit of online research, and I saw a cool blog post from Inclusion BC. So they were talking earlier this year about post-secondary opportunities for youth with disabilities. And one of the things they said, and they say, unfortunately, this is the case, but the vision for learners with an intellectual and/or developmental disability is often drastically different from the vision for students without a label. And this vision lacks an expectation for lifelong learning. So I think that was definitely true for many of the individuals who I saw in the Richmond Youth Media Program who'd been identified as having a disability of that type in the school system. They were working towards a completion certificate, but they weren't really working towards like a diploma, right? And that can really become a huge barrier when you want to pursue post-secondary education. And so I'm just thinking about, one person in particular who reported to me that they rarely felt engaged in high school, and the projects that they were doing with the Youth Media Program were much more interesting to them, and they were really able to practice and develop their skills during these programs. And now they are in post-secondary. They're going to college. And although they're doing a modified schedule, they're doing 2 courses at a time instead of 4, like they're going to graduate, right? Mm-hmm. This young adult is going to be a college graduate. And I can't take all the credit, but I think being in the media program helped them to expand their vision of what was possible for themselves, right?
Oh, yeah.
And lift up their understanding of like what they're capable of.
Mm-hmm. And I can definitely speak to that too, because if it probably weren't for the Media Lab, I probably wouldn't be as fluent as I am now or as experienced as I am now in things like Adobe Premiere, Adobe Photoshop. And I actually use Pixlr quite regularly too. I actually have a subscription to it.
Yeah.
It's amazing, by the way. But I think that the program I was in, it definitely helps with literacy and building confidence and technical experience in video editing or photo editing platforms that many other people, including individuals who are neurodivergent, have special needs, or physically disabled, might not actually or have a disability, might not be able to fully understand. So I think this program did wonders for me, and I think it's done a lot of wonders for other people too, like you said.
I'm such a softie. I could practically burst into tears hearing you say that. It's so awesome.
Anyways, I want to move on. What?
No crying, Lauren.
Yeah. So, generally speaking, what are some common themes you've noticed about because you've worked with individuals who've had these challenges, what have been some common themes or common issues? Again, no need to name names here, but what have been some common issues that you've noticed they've discussed or brought up with you about what they're facing, especially in terms of trying to get into post-secondary or in terms of employment or just trying to seek acceptance from the community? What have been some common themes that you've noticed from them that they've discussed with you?
I mean, there's so many differences between each of these individuals that it's a bit tricky to think about what are all the things in common. But on the flip side, we all kind of face similar challenges, right? Like, so definitely finding employment is a huge one for adolescents and young adults, trying to build that independence, trying to get some money to spend on things they want to spend your money on. And I would say, particularly for those people who are living with a disability, finding employment with room for growth, right? Like finding a job is one thing, but finding a job where you can develop your skills, get promoted, right? Have
work that
have a
helps you
career
thrive
path.
and live a full life.
Yeah. So you might get a chance to have a part-time retail opportunity, but is that something that you're going to be able to find satisfaction with in the long run, right? So employment is a big one. We did talk about post-secondary education. I would say also being able to access any sort of adaptations that are available to you as a learner, right?
Yeah.
You've got a different learning style. Making sure that you can access those types of supports. And yeah, you said like being accepted by society. I would say that sort of appeared in our conversations just in terms of like friendships, and romantic relationships too, that they're tricky for everyone, right? Relationships are not easy, but they're also so important to us as human beings. And that was a theme. So I think also, yeah, like coming into the Richmond Youth Media Program, it's available 3 times a week. It's free. There's a fair amount of unstructured time where you can pursue your own interests, but you can also be in a room with other people who have maybe similar interests, but are definitely, around your same age, and just being close to others. It's loneliness and isolation are so like damaging and kind of dangerous.
Oh yeah.
So I think those are some of the challenges for sure.
And before I wrap up here, you don't mind just describing where you work now and what's your role?
Yes, I work at Wish Drop-In Center Society. My role is Development and Communications Officer. So talking about the website, our social media channels, thank you letters for donors, all this type of work. I also have had a chance to interview a few participants too, and try to share, again, anonymously, some of their stories. So, bringing in some of those media skills, and definitely keeping on the relationship, developing relationships tip.
Well, Lauren Burrows, thanks so much for your time. It's great to catch up with you again.
Jasper Chu, I'm expecting great things from you. Keep me posted on all of your amazing adventures.
Well, again, Lauren Burrows, thank you so much for your time. It's great catching up with you.
Lauren Burrows Backhouse signing off. Thank you, Jasper.
You too. Bye.